Yaffee program on WVNN.
You know, there is a small part of me that would love to meet the leaders in Iran just to get a glimpse of the arrogance. The arrogance of the people leading the military in that country. It must be something to behold, I have to say. The idea that after everything that has happened, they are still attacking U.S. military ships and still calling out the Trump administration on this. Basically asking for Trump to bomb them. Begging. Now, I get it. They're terrorists, and this is kind of how terrorists are sometimes. They want to be martyrs. But that very fact, the fact that I say that they want to be martyrs, maybe this is proof why we needed to do this. What more proof do you need of just how radical and crazy this regime is, and why we could never let them have a nuclear weapon? Seriously, they are proving it to us right now. We'll have the latest details on the Iran war, but I'm just looking at some of this. The only thing that I see out there that is crazier than the Iranian regime today are some of these people who went to the Met Gala and what they wore. It's like the people, what they wore at the Met Gala, some of these nut jobs, was like, how can I look even crazier than they did in the Hunger Games? Remember how the rich people in the Hunger Games would dress at those events? They're like, I can be crazier than that. So there you go. Does anyone see the videos from the Met Gala and think, this is probably what it was like before God sent the flood? I know that's depressing thought, but dear God, you're listening to the Yaffee program. This is the show where you can count on the latest news, the important guests, and the best analysis, all for your morning commute. You're on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Coming up at the show, I'll give you the latest on Iran, of course. We'll have the Alabama bullet point. At the bottom of the hour, we'll talk a little bit more about the redistricting, gerrymandering bonanza that's going to happen in Alabama and other states. Although a lot of people are still unsure what the end result is going to be. We do know we do know one of the results. The propaganda press will just scream racism, and they're already doing that. So we'll talk about that in the next hour. We'll speak with Victoria Coates. She is a national security foreign policy expert with the Heritage Foundation. We always end the show with the Yaffee program Rewind, but before that, we have What's Trending, and Bugsy is producing today, so she gets to do What's Trending later on. Bugsy, how are you today?
I've had a weird day today, Yaffee. Very strange.
You're going to have to explain.
I feel like the universe is trying to tell me something, and I don't know what that is. So first of all, when I got in this morning, I forgot the door code. I had to call Dale Jackson, and he told me it. I was typing in something else. I don't know what it was.
Was it an old code or
maybe
just something completely random?
Well, at first I think it started with an old code, and then I just started guessing, and just like reordering those numbers. I did,
That's
yeah. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna call. And he told me and was he sighed. But then just a few minutes ago, Yaffee, I had apple juice in the fridge here, and I opened the little mini fridge, and just a rotten banana just falls out, just lands right in front of my feet.
Yeah.
And another producer from a different station, one of our sister stations here, was walking by when that happened, and she just busts out laughing, and tells me the universe is trying to tell me something, and I.
But what?
Yeah. What?
What is it? That doesn't make any sense.
What does that mean?
If I had a horoscope and it said rotten banana, I'd be like, huh?
Should I check my horoscope and see if it says that?
Actually, yes. I want you to sometime in the show check your horoscope, and then we'll talk about it before what's trending. We got to figure out what the universe is trying to tell Bugsy. All right. If you want to weigh in, you can. We have our Yaffee text line, of course, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. Dale was asking if I could beat Jacob Morrison in a basketball game, and someone texted in and said Yaffee would win by 20 points. I like that. You get tickets to the Movie Talk Radio. Yeah, we're going to be there, Dale Jackson and I, this Saturday. It's going to be at Low Mills, Saturday about 5 p.m. Bugsy will be there as well, I believe. We're going to have a showing of that movie, a Q&A afterward. You get to meet me in person. So if you want to compliment me, I'll probably give you tickets. There you go. What can I say? All right, let me talk about the latest in Iran. This is what I was talking about when I say the arrogance of this regime. So the USS Truxtun and the USS Mason, both the ships came under what they called sustained Iranian attack in the Strait of Hormuz. So 2 U.S. Navy destroyers, according to Fox News here, transited the Strait of Hormuz under Iranian fire Monday as the vessels came under a barrage of small boats, missiles, and drones, according to reports. Now, the USS Truxtun and USS Mason, as I just mentioned, were backed by fighter aircraft and an AH-64 Apache, or a couple of those helicopters, during the encounter, with officials describing it as a sustained barrage. Now, despite the attack, neither of the destroyers were impacted, with forces intercepting or deterring all of the attacks. But man, what arrogance, I just have to say. Now, President Trump has kind of reiterated that we're either going to open the strait or we're going to have to bomb the hell out of that country. I'm not starting to think, I've actually said it for a week now, we're going to probably have to bomb them again, just so everyone knows. We're getting to that point. Now, I will say this. If Trump is able to open the strait with this process, they're calling it Project Freedom. If this does really open up the strait, that's a pretty big victory. If we are able to secure the strait during the ceasefire without having to totally bomb the country again and make it enough where ships feel comfortable for a long period of time, that means Iran will have lost pretty much all of its leverage. And that would be a big deal if we can accomplish that. The problem, one, it costs a lot of money to have this many military assets constantly monitoring the strait. But two, it would still take a while because it's, a lot of this is about a feeling, unfortunately. The ships have to feel safe, feel like they can make it across the strait. And that takes time to build that kind of trust, that kind of feeling, I guess. Now, I know that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Kane gave a press conference this morning talking about it. Go ahead if you can, Bugsy. Play Pete Hegseth for me.
Project Freedom is defensive in nature, focused in scope, and temporary in duration, with one mission: protecting innocent commercial shipping from Iranian aggression. We're not looking for a fight, but Iran also cannot be allowed to block innocent countries and their goods from an international waterway.
I mean, we're kind of... I understand. We're not looking for a fight. We're kind of fighting. Apparently, Trump yesterday called it a mini war. Kind of reminds me, and if you know anything about an American history, when John Adams was president, we were in what they called a quasi-war with France. And a lot of it was Navy stuff. So, mini war, quasi-war, is that what we're in? You can kind of tell me. Go ahead and play a Dan Kane for me.
Since the ceasefire was announced, Iran has fired at commercial vessels 9 times and seized 2 container ships. And they've attacked U.S. forces more than 10 times, all below the threshold of restarting major combat operations at this point. Beyond Project Freedom, CENTCOM and the rest of the joint force remain ready to resume major combat operations against Iran if ordered to do so.
Yeah, the question is the order coming? I mean, if it were me, it would be coming. Speaking of that, the order would obviously have to come from President Donald Trump. I made the argument yesterday, There's a lot of talk about the War Powers Resolution and whether he should have to get approval from Congress at this point. I think constitutionally speaking, he really doesn't. But they're making the argument that because there's been a ceasefire, there's sort of a pause, so we're not in a full war, so that doesn't really count in the War Powers Resolution. That's the route they're going. I have no idea if that holds up legally. But Trump did talk about all this yesterday. Go on and play the Trump cut for me.
Right, $300 a barrel, and it's like at 100. And I think going down, and I see it going down very substantially when this is over, Chris, and I think very rapidly too. They give me fake polls. They tell me about polls and this. You know, it's interesting. They did a poll on the war with Iran, and they said only 32% of the people like it. Well, I don't like it, and I don't like war at all, but we're equipped better than it. We have the greatest military in the world. You saw what happened with Venezuela. You see what happens with everything. But they said 32% of the people are against President Trump. Well, when you explain it, like, is it okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon? It wouldn't be 32%. But even if you said that, there'd be a 32% because the polls are fake. I mean, they're totally fake.
You know, obviously he's going to call the polls fake. That's what he does. But he actually makes a good point there. If you phrase it in the way of, should this crazy, the nut jobs that are in charge of Iran, should they be able to have a nuclear weapon? Most people would say no. But why is it unpopular? Well, for the reason why. I mean, I was driving into work this morning, and you see that number 4 on the gas prices is the first number. Anytime we get over $4 a gallon, people get really nervous about the economy, about gas prices, about their own finances. That 4 really spreads a lot of uncertainty and fear and panic in the marketplace. So because of that's going to affect the poll numbers. It just is. Now go ahead on the gas price issue. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent talked about it yesterday as well. Play the Scott Bessent cut for me, Bugsy.
I think it's called the Mosquito Navy. Is being swatted. Numerous ships, maybe in double digits, have been destroyed. And the U.S., we are just firing if fired upon. We are not the provocateurs here. Corporate earnings are good, employment is good, and this gasoline, this temporary aberration, will be over in a matter of weeks or a month.
866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. That is the Yaffee text line. Brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. Go to RegenesisStemCell.com right now. Make an appointment. If you deal with joint pain, maybe you have arthritis, maybe you have neuropathy. Unfortunately, I have family members that deal with neuropathy, and none of the treatments seem to work. Well, I keep telling them, get the stem cell treatment at Regenesis Stem Cell Center. It worked on my back. It can help you out with your pain or your neuropathy, but you got to make an appointment today. Go to the website, RegenesisStemCell.com. Speak with Dr. Charles Lee. They use your own body's adult stem cells to take away the pain. No downtime and no invasive surgery. RegenesisStemCell.com. Let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. Back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Don't forget to like the Yaffee Facebook page, by the way, or follow me on X at Yaffee or Instagram at Yaffee Live. And no, it's not spelled with a J. It's a Y, Y-A-F-F-E-E. Apparently there are some Jaffies out there, I found out. No, it's not Yaffee. It's Yaffee, Y-A-F-F-E-E. All right, let's get to the headlines right now. We have those Alabama bullet points.
Alabama bullet points. Today's headlines from around the Yellowhammer State.
Sponsored by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Number 4 today, John Wall says that he's happy we have this state grocery tax holiday coming. It's actually going on right now. But he wants it to be permanent, and he's right about this. So John Wall is a candidate for Alabama Lieutenant Governor. Also, former chairman of the Alabama Republican Party, praised the state's new temporary grocery tax holiday as a positive but insufficient step Now, the measure signed by Governor Kay Ivey suspends Alabama's 2% state grocery tax for 2 months, providing immediate relief to families facing high food costs, while emphasized that taxing groceries unfairly burdens working families, seniors, and those on fixed incomes, and he is pushing for a permanent elimination of the tax as a key campaign issue. He argued that permanent relief would put more money in families' pockets, boost local spending, strengthen small businesses, and support community-driven economic growth. Number 3, some new details in the race for Attorney General. A little bit of a spat going on here. Mitchell sends Robertson formal retraction demand under Alabama libel statute over lobbyist for a Muslim country claim. So Jay Mitchell, a former Alabama Supreme Court justice and Republican candidate for Attorney General, sent a formal retraction demand letter to rival candidate Catherine Robertson under Alabama's libel statute. Now, the demand targets her campaign's TV ad and statements that falsely accused him of serving as a registered foreign agent for Uzbekistan, which they said was a lobbyist, or he's now a lobbyist for a Muslim country and representing a Muslim regime. Now, Mitchell argues these claims are demonstrably false and bold-faced lies, asserting that his early 2000s work at Maynard Cooper and Gale involved pro bono legal aid for a pro-democracy Uzbek opposition group. Number 2 today, we have a Democrat in the state Senate who says because of the Voting Rights Act stuff, the Supreme Court decision and the redistricting, he says there's going to be a poll tax, a Jim Crow era voter suppression tactics are going to return to Alabama. That's right. In an interview with Alabama Public Television's Capital Journal, State Senator Roger Smitherman, a Democrat out of Birmingham, warned that weakening or loss of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act amid a special legislative session addressing the U.S. Supreme Court's recent decision and potential redistricting could lead to a second coming of Reconstruction. Now, he argued that without these federal protections, Jim Crow-era voter suppression tactics, such as poll taxes, literacy tests, and other stuff you might have read about in our past, they're going to come back. So several claims now from Democrats that we're going to turn into the Confederacy again. So dumb. And number 1, our Secretary of State in Alabama says the May 19th primary election will proceed as planned, even if redistricting is enacted. So Alabama Secretary of State Wes Allen announced this week that the state's May 19th primary election will proceed as scheduled, regardless of ongoing redistricting efforts and pending court rulings. Now, amid litigation before the U.S. Supreme Court in the 11th Circuit involving Alabama's congressional and state Senate district maps, and following Governor Kay Ivey's call for a special legislative session, Allen emphasized that election preparations will continue uninterrupted. He urged eligible voters to check their registration and make plans to vote, noting key deadlines. Voter registration closes May 4th, so that's over. Mail and absentee ballot applications are due by May 12th or May 14th if you deliver it in person, and polls will be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Election Day with photo ID required. So some of this is getting a little bit confusing, as you can tell. And in fact, Attorney General Steve Marshall, he was on CNN recently talking about that. So I'm going to play some of the cuts of what he said and fighting back against the claims that this is racist, because this is what you're hearing. The protesters just say, racist, Confederacy. And the propaganda press says, oh, yes, we'll write that down. We'll publish that. By the way, the bullet points brought to you by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Go to the Madison location today. Mother's Day is this Sunday. What did you get your mom? What did you get your wife? It's probably not good enough. If you didn't go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn, I'm sorry, it's not good enough. Go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn and get her the best in jewelry, and then you'll make up for whatever you got her. I'm just saying. They're going to have something much better at Larry's Pistol and Pawn at the Madison location. Find out more about the latest deals on their website, pistolandpawn.com, or go to the Huntsville location as well off North Memorial Parkway. And when you do, let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. Back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
My name is David Goss, and I'm joined by my co-host Megan Klinenberg.
And now we're giving people an inside look at the World Cup.
Time's ticking. I think you can feel the intensity. All the guys are wanting to really stake their claim, and they want to be on that World Cup roster. There's no doubt about it.
Hosting the World Cup on home soil comes with its pressures, but we're just really excited, just as the people are.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast, presented by Henco. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. Appreciate you joining the show. I am Alabama's voice of reason, Huntsville's conservative conscience. You know, I was just looking at there's a piece here of all the different headlines that have come out since the Supreme Court has come out. And remember, the Supreme Court, all the Supreme Court said here in this ruling with the Voting Rights Act is the Constitution says equal justice under the law. That's what the Constitution is saying. And racial gerrymandering and the way that it was being done is not equal justice under the law. That's it. Really shouldn't be that controversial. But this is how some people are putting it. This was on The Atlantic, a headline from The Atlantic. Voters can be disenfranchised now. So there we go. I already talked about yesterday, Kyle Whitmire said that we were headed back toward the Confederacy. And I kid you not, that's basically what he said in his piece. He actually said we could slide back to the Confederacy in the piece. Let's see here. Another headline. I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah. New York Times published an article that said voting rights ruling could fuel era of endless redistricting wars. And it says probable casualties of the decision, longstanding principles of fair representation along with American voters who are likelier now to be shunted into hyper-partisan districts, even though we talked about how that's like already happened in many states. Of course, they also said this was a statement from the president of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. He said this: Black Americans have never been fully represented in the electoral process. This ruling makes it less likely that we ever will. Okay. Another person. So we're going back to Jim Crow in the 60s is their argument. Another person said this. This was reporting from the Times, says how the Voting Rights Act decision may block the rise of young black leaders. Now, forget the fact that you have young black leaders who are doing pretty well. A lot of them are Republicans, though, so we can't talk about them. Think about Byron Donalds, who was a congressman in Florida. Oh, the evil Republican state of Florida, misrepresenting black voters. Oh, wait a minute. One of the Republican members of Congress is from Florida. Oh, but he's a Republican, so we can't talk about that. Now, on PBS NewsHour, just another claim here, co-anchor Amna Nawaz told viewers how the decision weakens key protections and could lead to the elimination of black and Latino majority districts nationwide. The program welcomed guests, including NAACP Legal Defense Fund President and Director Counsel, who accused the court of trampling on the right to vote. Now, none of this stops anybody from voting. None of this does. You can still vote. That doesn't change here at all. Okay, let's see another one. Oh, this is Abrams. This is Stacey Abrams, of course, was on MS Now. She said, in response to this, trying to legalize the restoration of Jim Crow, of course. She said, that's what's happening here because our power was working. We had laws across the country that allowed black and brown citizens to be fully realized as members of this society. Said the racist fascist leadership that starts in the White House but extends to the Supreme Court, members of Congress, and to the state and local level, they're angry. They're angry about the country being on track to be a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-generational, pluralistic democracy, is what she said. Oh, and she adds this: we cannot take it as fait accompli that they have won simply because the Supreme Court said it. Because the same Supreme Court, different composition, same ethos, did Dred Scott. Oh, so now she's not for precedent, by the way. They were all about precedent 2 seconds ago. But now there's a ruling they don't like, so they don't like precedent anymore. Now, forget the fact that you might see the opposite effect in Democrat states. Because all of this is about, I know you already know this, I don't have to tell you again, but all of this is about, to them, getting more Democrat members of Congress. And Republicans are like, no, in Republican states, we're going to have more Republican members of Congress. But let's say the trend continues where the majority of black voters vote Democrat. That means in Democratic states, you're going to see probably more districts with minority voters. But forget the fact that if more and more black voters, which, young black men were voting for Trump in bigger numbers, let's say more and more black voters decide to vote Republican. You're not going to hear these same arguments. None of these people defended Winsome Sears saying vote for her so we can get more black representation. None of these people want Byron Donalds to be the governor of Florida to say, well, we could get a black governor of Florida. Because it's not about race. It's about using race and playing the race card to get more Democrat members of Congress. Now, Steve Marshall was on CNN recently. He was on The Lead with Jake Tapper, was asked about a lot of this. Now, remember, as our Attorney General, he put forward, he's asking the Supreme Court for an emergency injunction so we can redraw the maps here in Alabama. Go ahead if you can, Bugsy. Play Steve Marshall cut 1 for me.
Jake, I don't think it's contradictory at all. In fact, Justice Alito spoke specifically to the Alabama decision, noting that it was one coming up with a limited record, one in which there was initial injunctive relief without the full ability to explain the facts. And what we've seen as a result of the new decision from Louisiana is an opportunity for Alabama to be created in the same way, that we don't allow race to predominate in the drawing of the districts, that we separate partisanship from a consideration of race. And when you do so, Alabama's going to prevail, and it's why we're seeking that relief today.
So what he's saying there, which we've talked about, is that we can't get past racism in this country if we're specifically gerrymandering based on race. That you can gerrymander based on political considerations, because Democrats have been doing that for years, as you know. Go on and play Steve Marshall cut 2.
Now, worry is going to cause chaos and confusion. We've met with our Secretary of State's office. There are ways in which we can amend the date specific to our congressional races as well as to two state Senate districts that will allow us to be able to comply with strong election principles. And look, Jake, Alabama ought to have the opportunity, as we've seen Virginia, as we've seen California, we've seen New York, to draw districts that are consistent with those who are seeking that representation. Alabama is a conservative state, and they deserve conservative representation. I'm going to do everything in my power to give the legislature an opportunity to draw 7 congressional Republican districts.
Now, people say that's controversial. How could you do that? But I keep reminding you over and over again, we have seen this for years in Democrat states. We didn't see it as much in some states in the South because the left-wing activists would scream racism and they would go to the courts and the courts would just rubber stamp what the Democrats wanted. Go and play cut 3 of Steve Marshall.
But it's only in 17 days. I mean, the other states you're talking about, I get it. Like, we're in a gerrymandering war right now between states. But in 17 days, I mean, why not just wait until the next election so you can do it right?
Well, when we can amend those dates and be able to push them back to allow us to be able to draw them, Alabama ought to have that opportunity. We have the ability to do so. The governor's acted proactively to give us the opportunity to adopt those new dates, and I think the legislature will act consistent with that in the event the Supreme Court removes the injunctive terms that right now we're governed by in the prior case.
Now, I do have to clarify something, and I know Todd talked about this yesterday when he was on my show, Todd Stacey. It's still not 100% sure what the map is going to look like after this special session. According to the request to the Supreme Court by Steve Marshall, they want to go back to the map that was originally approved by the legislature in 2021. That still had one Democrat district, which had been pretty much the norm for a long time in Alabama politics to draw it very similar in this way. But I guess there's an argument that maybe we'll get all 7 Republicans, which they would have to, I don't know how that works legally speaking. It would probably have to fight that in the courts as well. Go ahead and play cut 4 of Steve Marshall for me.
Now, it's not exactly a secret that the president and national Republican leaders are pushing for all this redistricting in the middle of the decade. This kind of thing usually happens after the census at the end of the decade. They're pushing for this in the middle of the decade because they're worried that Republicans are going to lose the House. This is going to give them a better shot of winning the midterms. Have you heard directly from the president or any administration or national party Republican officials?
I haven't, but what I have heard is from our constituents, and the people of Alabama expect me to use the authority given to me as Attorney General to make sure that their interests are represented. That's why we made that filing yesterday, that we're asking the court to be able to act, to then enable our legislature to act accordingly, and that is to be able to have a map that's consistent with those in our state and who they want representing them.
Okay, and so I was looking at Alabama Daily News here. This is how they put it as well, just to get some clarification on what the map could look like. It says Alabama Republicans want to use the 2023 congressional map drawn by the legislature, which would give the GOP an additional seat in Congress. But that will only be possible if the Supreme Court lifts an injunction on the state that bars it from using that map after finding it was racially discriminatory. We talked about that a lot at the time. Federal judges also ruled that the state can't change its congressional map until the 2030 census. Now, Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall and Wes Allen, Secretary of State, filed emergency motions last week to expedite the consideration of redistricting cases. If the 2023 map is used, Alabama's 1st, 2nd, and 7th congressional districts would be impacted. And, of course, Jerry Carl and Rep. Marks are really looking at that. Now, Jake Tapper goes into the racial aspects once again here. Go on and play Steve Marshall Cut 5.
So theoretically, let me just ask you this as a philosophical question. Why is redistricting for more Republicans for purely partisan reasons, why is that better than an effort to make sure historically disadvantaged minorities who haven't exactly had the greatest centuries in Alabama, making sure that they have more representation? Why is the partisan goal more important?
But Jake, one of the things I think this court did in Calais is recognize that the Alabama 2026, again, is not the Alabama of the early 1960s. It's a new time and a different era. The individuals that are representing our state right now, when you look, we are a majority Republican state, ruby red, and those that are seeking to represent it. All of our constitutional officers are from the Republican Party. Our legislature should have the opportunity, again, to do what we saw in a very different way in the state of Virginia, in drawing a map that has changed the party representation of those in Congress for Virginia. Alabama ought to have that same ability.
So I want to address Jake Tapper's question in a moment. I want to get your reaction as well, though, on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. And Victoria Coates, by the way, is going to join us at the top of the hour as well. You're listening to the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. We're back here on the Yaffee program. It's your woke detox center, your rehab, if you deal with a lot of lefty nonsense, either in the media, in your daily life, wherever, at your workplace. You know, you listen to me, you just feel better. I want to play this cut again. I played it at the end of the last segment, but I want to get into this because Jake Tapper, I mean, he says he's asking a very philosophical question. I don't really buy the premise of the question. And Steve Marshall had a pretty decent answer, but I wanted to talk about this a little bit more. So play a Steve Marshall Cut 5 again for me.
So theoretically, let me just ask you this as a philosophical question. Why is redistricting for more Republicans for purely partisan reasons, why is that better than an effort to make sure historically disadvantaged minorities who haven't exactly had the greatest centuries in Alabama, making sure that they have more representation? Why is the partisan goal more important?
But Jake, one of the things I think this court did in Calais is recognize that the Alabama 2026, again, is not the Alabama of the early 1960s. It's a new time and a different era. The individuals that are representing our state right now, when you look, we are a majority Republican state, ruby red, and those that are seeking to represent it. All of our constitutional officers are from the Republican Party. Our legislature should have the opportunity, again, to do what we saw in a very different way in the state of Virginia, in drawing a map that has changed the party representation of those in Congress for Virginia. Alabama ought to have that same ability.
So Jake Tapper asks, why is it more important to have partisan considerations than to make sure that there is black minority representation? The reason why I don't really buy the premise into this question is there is nothing to suggest that we might not see minority representation in the future. That representation might be Republican, but there's this whole premise that, well, Alabama would never elect a black Republican. So whatever. But Steve Marshall is right. We are not the Alabama of the 1960s or before. There is a chance, and I was giving other examples, there was a chance for Virginia was also a part of the Jim Crow South. There was a chance for them recently, though, to have a black woman governor. But Democrats, it was a Republican, so Democrats didn't want that. There is a chance for Florida to have a black governor as well, but he's a Republican. That's what I mean when I don't buy into the question. The reason why it's important to do partisan gerrymandering is because having Republicans in the legislature is better for the state, honestly, and better represents the values of the majority of the people in the state than if you have two Democrats. That would be the argument to make. Now, you could also make an argument the other way that, well, those districts are some Democrats who deserve some representation, I guess. But as I mentioned before, I don't want to hear it until you address, say, Massachusetts, where their representation, all Democrat, does not match the party makeup of the people in the state. But that has been going on for years. So until you address that, this is what's going to happen. And I know gerrymandering is not a perfect solution. I get it. But it's better than any other type of system that we've been able to come up with. Because you get these so-called nonpartisan solutions to districting, but usually they're partisan. I mean, it's just the reality. All right, going to move back to the topic of Iran. Coming up next, Victoria Coates will join me here on the Yaffee program. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
My name is David Goss, and I'm joined by my co-host Megan Klinenberg.
And now we're giving people an inside look at the World Cup.
Time's ticking. I think you can feel the intensity. All the guys are wanting to really stake their claim, and they want to be on that World Cup roster. There's no doubt about it.
Hosting the World Cup on home soil comes with its pressures, but we're just really excited, just as the people are.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast, presented by Henco. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The Yaffee program on WVNN.
Second hour of the Yaffee program, Tuesday edition of the show on Newstalk 770 AM, 92.5 FM. WVNN, you can also listen online, WVNN.com, the WVNN app, the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app, or your Amazon Echo, your Google, Siri, smart devices, all that stuff. So headline here says, Trump hints that U.S. may arm the Iranian people So President Trump on Monday hinted during an interview that the U.S. may start arming the Iranian people amid the war. Now, he did this during an interview with the Hugh Hewitt Show. Trump discussed the question about arming Iranians as many protesters have been killed by the regime. He said, well, look, the problem is you can't. If you have 5 people with a gun and 250,000 without, the 5 people with a gun, assuming it's used fast enough, which they do, they're going to win. They have to. They don't have weapons. So we got to talk more about this and the latest with the war and the Strait of Hormuz and everything else. Trump is calling it the mini war. So we'll talk about that right now with Victoria Coates. She is a national security expert with the Heritage Foundation, also former deputy national security advisor. Victoria, how are you today?
I'm very well, Yaffee. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So is that a good way to phrase this, the mini war? I was thinking of the quasi war. That's what John Adams called it back at the beginning of the country. What do you think?
A limited conflict. Yes, I mean, I think the administration's been very clear, and we heard this from Secretary Hegseth this morning, that this is not going to be, another endless war. This isn't a 20-year commitment. I don't even think it's a year commitment. I think we've got maybe a couple of weeks left. And for a number of practical reasons we can get into, it's not going to be good for the administration or our country to have this go on infinitely. And I think that is recognized at the highest levels. However, that said, we've had some pretty extraordinary achievements militarily. And we're also seeing some really interesting sort of geostrategic developments, particularly in the Gulf, that are to our benefit. And so I think we can consolidate those. And then, if the president's serious about arming the Iranian people, that's going to be the best chance we have for meaningful change inside the country.
Now, right now, we have the issue at the Strait of Hormuz. I have to admit, if Trump is able to get this strait open with like what he's doing now, they're calling it, I believe, is it Project Freedom is what they're calling it. To be able to open up the strait, keep it open for a while where ships are comfortable going through, and be able to do that without having to bomb the country again or bomb the hell out of them, as Trump says, that would be a pretty big accomplishment, but can that be done?
Well, I think it can be. And so what we're going to need to look at are what capabilities Iran has left to meaningfully threaten the strait, because it isn't all that much. A lot of their navy capacity has been degraded, their air force, the things that they would use. Meanwhile, our firepower has increased. And I think it was encouraging. I think we had 4 ships come out yesterday. There was some harassment, but they couldn't do that much. So I would assume the president's getting an assessment of what the real threat level is. What kind of mining might we anticipate? How do we mitigate that? But I think the entire world is ready to get this wrapped up. And it's important to remember the secondary economic consequences of this are already quite acute in Asia and Europe. And we're not liking what we're seeing here from our economists at Heritage. The indicators aren't great here at home, but we're more buffered from it. And so I don't think it's in any way an accident that the Iranian foreign minister, Arghachi, is headed to Beijing tomorrow. He's been summoned for an audience, and I think the message is going to come from China, which is going to start to feel the bite of this, and then the other things, the secondary effects, the fertilizer, the petrochemicals, all of these things are going to start to work their way through the supply chains with, unintended consequences. Yes, we will have consequences here at home. I think China's consequences are going to be significantly greater. So you may see China spring into action here, which is going to be really interesting in anticipation of the Xi visit next week, or President Trump's visit to Beijing. If China is the one who's saying, okay, Iran, wrap this up, agree to what the Americans want, get past this.
It's amazing, though. I was talking about this earlier. The arrogance of the people in that regime. So we have the blockade. We start letting ships through, and they go back to attacking military destroyers, U.S. destroyers, thinking they have a chance. I mean, is that arrogance, or maybe it's desperation? because this is their only bit of leverage they have left is controlling the strait? What do you think?
Well, I think that they may be reading the New York Times, which also thinks that they're winning, they can endure the pain. They're listening to people like Chancellor Merz saying that they are humiliating the American administration, all of which is patently untrue. But I think they're probably believing that propaganda. It's not clear what kind of information is even getting to them. And they also, I guess in their minds, they don't really have a choice. And I think it's going to take any attempt for them to restart their economy. And this is also a really interesting question set: is what happens when they reopen the banks, reopen the stock exchange, reopen the internet to even the limited capacity it used to have? That's been 99% shut off for going on 3 months now. And so what happens? What stories start coming out? What kind of capital flight do you see? It's nobody knows. And that's not something they can control. You're not talking at that point about technocrats. You're talking about IRGC hardliners who have power because they control the weapons, not because they're really good at managing an economy.
It's interesting. You say maybe they feel like they don't have a choice, but to me, it's like, yeah, they do. They could give up their nukes. They could give up any chance of a nuclear weapons program. But I guess they feel like they just can't.
Well, that's what we need to watch. And I did see some interesting motion this week. The most recent proposal they sent along had some new concessions in it. It's not enough. It's not what the president wants, and he rejected it correctly. But they have started to move and said, we will halt all enrichment for 15 years. That wasn't even on the table for the JCPOA. They still had the so-called right to enrich up to 3.68 or whatever that number is percent, which of course they blew through beginning in February of 2021 because they knew Biden wouldn't hold them accountable for it. But they put on the table 15-year halt to enrichment, and then they can enrich to 3.68. Again, that's not what the president wants, but that's new. That is a shift. And so I think they are feeling that pressure, I think more than we are. Now, at the same time, I do think it is important that we communicate with the American people, what this action is going to cost us economically, because it will. And I know the administration is going to take a lot of mitigating actions. There's some things we can do on importing fertilizer, for example, because we can't produce as much fertilizer as we need as a country because our industry just isn't that large. And so we need to import, but we've put very heavy duties on imports of fertilizer to sort of encourage that industry. But right now, we need for a period to be able to import fertilizer from, say, Morocco to keep food prices down as we go into the fall. So that's something we can do as an emergency national security waiver. Hopefully it will encourage folks to go into this necessary business, but will mitigate that pain to the American consumer in the short term. And so I think that's where you'll see the administration focus.
Well, that's kind of interesting. There might be some other tariffs as well that could play a role there and get rid of those temporarily, which is pretty interesting. I'm speaking with Victoria Coates. She's a national security foreign policy expert. A lot of people are now looking to Venezuela, right? When in terms of oil, we can now maybe start buying more oil from them. We have American companies possibly wanting to invest in Venezuela now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, these are long-term solutions, and I think we're going to see increased production from Venezuela. It's going to take them at least a year to rebuild their infrastructure, but that is happening. And really striking the head of ExxonMobil, Darren Woods, in early January, days after the Maduro operation, was in the Oval Office with the other oil majors for the United States to talk about Venezuela. And he said that day, Venezuela is uninvestable. I can't do it. The risk is too high. The instability is too great. The return is not worth it. Well, he was in Caracas last week. There was a big meeting in Caracas of all the American oil majors, and they came out with a commitment to invest. So the American private sector investment has started to flow, but it will take a year before that supply comes online. we are going to see increased production. We hit a high of 12.9 million barrels a day in April. So we will continue to increase production. And we're going to see UAE increase production because they just got out of OPEC, so they're no longer laboring under that restriction. So I do think as global demand continues to go up, because bear in mind, everyone has been burning through their oil reserves during this period. When we get back to a normal oil flow, it's not just going to be business as usual. Everyone's going to have to refill those reserves, including us. So you're going to see elevated demand. But during that period, I think we will see increased production from actors like Venezuela and UAE, which will mitigate those price rises.
Yeah, that's good news. But, as you mentioned, the administration, they have to be honest about some of the cost here. We see that 4 as the first number on the gas prices, over $4. Right. And that seems to be when people really get nervous. Once it's over $4, I mean, they were nervous before, but it's really, that is the big one. Once it's over $4, people just really don't like it. And I think you're right. Is it really just about communication, that they just need to communicate that, yeah, there are sacrifices, but it really is worth it in the end?
I think it is communications, but then it's also material actions. This is what we did. When maybe things took a little bit longer than we thought, so we made this adjustment to fertilizer import duties, that kind of thing, to make sure we were mitigating, and just have a list of practical things that you can say, this is how we're going to make this better. We're not like Joe Biden just going to tell you have to keep paying more because we don't want to invest in fossil fuels, which was essentially what that problem was. And also because there were significant inflationary pressures around the war in Ukraine, which Biden never admitted to and never explained why, the disruption of grain coming out of Ukraine is going to spike prices in the United States, which it did do. And he never made the case for the war in Ukraine and said, you're going to be paying more, but this is why. Nobody ever explained it. So I do think communications goes a long way, especially when accompanied by practical steps that they can point to and say, this is how we prevent this from becoming a Biden-style inflationary spiral.
Victoria Coates is with the Heritage Foundation. You can read her stuff at heritage.org. Joins me every week on the show. Victoria, really appreciate it. I'll talk to you again next time.
Take care.
There you go. If you want to react to that, we have our Yaffee text line as usual, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. We'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. It's a revolution in common sense always. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Still looking at the latest in Iran, trying to open up the Strait of Hormuz. But I think it's time to bring back the Strait of Trump.
We're laughing so hard, we're in stitches.
There we go. I'm I'm surprised that Trump has not called it the Strait of Trump yet. I'm actually very surprised that has not been a thing that he has done, calling it the Strait of Trump. Coming up in a couple minutes, we're going to be doing What's Trending with Bugsy. By the way, Bugsy, did you figure out what the universe was telling you?
I'm not sure. I looked up my horoscope, and it is nothing. It tells me absolutely nothing. It just tells me I'm indecisive, basically.
I was going to say, you're not going to read it? You're not going to read it for us?
I was going to read it next, but I can read it now.
You want to read it during What's Trending?
Yeah, that's what's trending, obviously. Forget anything else today. That's our holiday, is my horoscope.
Okay. By the way, yes, if someone text in right now, you can win tickets to see Talk Radio with us at Low Mill. We're going to be there Saturday night. But if you want to win tickets, text into the Yaffee text line right now, and you can win a seat next to Bugsy. Yes.
Not just one seat. Yeah. Not next to you.
Seats.
Yeah. Not Yaffee. Nowhere near Yaffee. Both
the
seats
opposite side
on either side of me. You get Bugsy's left. Bugsy's right.
You have to tell us what you think the universe is trying to tell Bugsy as she opened the fridge today and a spoiled banana jumped out at her from the fridge.
Landed on my foot.
Yeah. What was the other thing? There was something else that happened. Oh, you forgot the door code or something.
Despite coming here every single day and typing in the same number.
What is the universe trying to tell Bugsy?
What is it?
Text that in 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. And you could sit next to Bugsy at Low Mill Saturday night at the Independent Theater.
Real prize.
Oh, okay. We're going to, I guess, find out what her horoscope was next, and also what's trending elsewhere in the world. You're listening to the Yaffee program. We'll be back.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
The Hammer Alley Podcast, an 80s flashback mockumentary.
Back in the 80s, there were 1,000 bands trying to make it in the world of rock, but there was one band that had it all, Hammer Alley.
Whatever happened to Hammer Alley?
How did they go from top of the rock?
I'm looking for a music video. They're a band from 1987, Hammer Alley. Ever heard of them?
To rock bottom.
Dude, I was born in 1987.
Oh.
I can't believe he's doing this.
Hammer Alley.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Welcome back to the Yaffee program. Always got to remind you as well to like the Yaffee Facebook page. Follow me on X at Yaffee or Instagram at Yaffee Live. You can usually find a lot of the podcast, the segments of the show right there on my social media. Don't forget as well, the WVNN Facebook page. We're also on X, WVNN. Bugsy is here. Let's get right to it. What's trending with Bugsy?
Keeping you up to date with all that's trending in your world.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
You guys know how to post videos to Facebook?
It's What's Trending.
Brought to you by Coleman Furniture Market, because they always have what's trending in furniture. Whether you need a living room furniture, bedroom furniture, kitchen furniture, dining room furniture, office furniture, and much patio furniture. I always forget that. We're at that season right now where you can get some really great patio furniture for a great price, because you're going to want it. The weather's been gorgeous. Don't you want to be outside a little bit? Get outside. Touch grass, as they say. But then sit down in some nice patio furniture you can get at Coleman Furniture Market. See some of the inventory right now. You want to like the Facebook page. They always post pictures of all this new stuff they're getting in all the time. Top furniture brands they have all the time. Better yet, go to their showroom in the heart of Coleman, Alabama. Find out more information at ColemanFurnitureMarket.com. And when you do, let them know Yaffee was the one who sent you. All right, Bugsy. What's number 5 today?
Number 5 today, Yaffee. You know, I normally start out with whatever stupid holidays there are going on.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there is only one today, and outside of Cinco de Mayo, who cares about that? Our stupid holiday, though, is hug a shed and take a selfie day. So immediately,
hug a shed.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, so I'd like to move on from it.
It annoyed you that much? Like, forget it.
There was
moving
no
on from it.
explanation when I looked into it. So instead I would like to move on to what the universe is trying to tell me today.
Text in if you want to have a seat next to Bugsy. We're going to be at Low Mill this Saturday, seeing the movie Talk Radio. I'll be there. Dale Jackson will be there, and you can win a seat next to Bugsy if you text in 866-494-9866 and tell me what the universe is trying to tell Bugsy.
Please text in. I want to sit next to you. Anybody listening to this.
There you go.
I don't talk during movies at all. I'll bring popcorn. I will have snacks for you. All that. Anyway, I don't know what the universe is telling me, and my horoscope has not helped, and my phone is ringing very loudly. Maybe that's part of it.
I don't know, yeah.
So this morning, though, I couldn't get in. You know, I forgot the door code. A banana fell in front of me, a rotten banana, onto my shoe, very grossly. And so we looked up our horoscopes today, hoping that this would, shine some light onto it, right? So for today, my horoscope, I am a Cancer. It says, my indecisiveness may plague me.
Well, I could see that.
Yeah. Well, it's got me for sure. But it does say, this is one of those times when you feel as if 1 second of hesitation could cost you dearly. Yet you take a while to process and internalize things before you're ready to act on them. Others may act and speak before they think. Don't get upset at yourself for handling things the way you do. It's your lack of self-confidence that's holding you back, it says.
Oh, geez.
So the banana was telling me something about my self-confidence, maybe? I don't know. But maybe it was a sign for you, Yaffee. Have you considered that?
Well, it's a Taurus, right? Is you a Taurus?
No, I'm a Cancer, but I mean, the banana was probably for you, right?
No, I'm not. I'm a Taurus. This is different. My horoscope.
Well, I have your
different.
horoscope, yeah, but I'm saying the banana might have been a sign for you. So because of that, I also have your horoscope ready.
Oh, okay. I see where you're. I'm like, wait a minute. How is this get turned on me? I haven't seen this banana.
So you, Yaffee, finding the comfort point may be difficult for you. You might feel as if you aren't connecting with your ideals or goals. Even though you try to put things into motion, they don't really pan out the way you'd like. There's a difficult energy making you feel like you need to join one camp or the other to feel accepted. The problem is that neither side looks appealing. Feel free to start your own camp, Yaffee.
I mean, I will do that. That is what the Yaffee program is. Just do not show this horoscope to Dale Jackson. You will use this against me somehow. Oh, it doesn't pan out. Mm-hmm.
Maybe
I think Dale wrote that horoscope. Is what I'm.
Pans out in the shape of rotten bananas, maybe falling from the fridge.
Maybe.
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know why somebody would say the universe is trying to tell you something when they see that. I just don't know why.
I would have been like, see, yeah, a normal response is, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
Not, the universe might be trying to tell you something, Bugsy.
What? And then leave? You don't even tell me? You don't even tell me what the universe is trying to tell me? Our horoscopes didn't help at all. They really
definitely did not help. Well, actually, I don't know. I mean, do you have a decision you need to make? That you've been
I don't know.
Internalizing too much?
I don't know what it means. There's that.
See? All right, I guess we should move on then, since we still have no answers.
Nothing, no answer whatsoever. Anyways, number 4 today, the VTuber bubble seems to have burst, Yaffee. You know what VTubers are, right?
No, I have no idea.
I swear I have explained VTubers
you probably
to you like
have.
8 million times. VTubers. I think you should become one, actually. So what they are people who they stream things online. They're like an internet personality, but they don't use their real face. They use like an image that is rigged up to like move with their mouth and everything, and they blink and all this. And usually it's women. A lot of them are actually men that do it, and they look like women. Like their photos are of women, and so they pretend to be women, and they're like all this. Anyways, in the UK recently, VTuber Mimi Yanagi was arrested due to her artwork of her avatar.
What? Well, I know the UK, they've been like, they just forgot about free speech over there.
Yeah.
Like they're just getting rid of that. But what was the problem here?
So the issue is that the artwork of her character was so childlike and also somewhat sexualized. It kind of violated UK internet censorship laws. I can't say that for some reason. And so because of that, she was arrested. And
wow,
now it's kind of caused a lot of people to abandon like the entire VTuber format because they're like, okay, one, this is kind of weird. Two, are we going to get arrested? The rest of them, I think it's stupid to begin with, but so I'm kind of glad.
Yeah, but I don't know if people want to be arrested for
Yeah,
it.
it's a little far. Why not just be like, hey, stop?
But yeah, yeah, that's true. But yeah, I mean, if I were a VTuber and that happened, yeah, I would think twice.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to be arrested for it. Is it worth that? Do you call it VTubing?
I guess. Yeah, is VTubing.
Is VTubing worth getting arrested?
I don't know, but I really do think you should become one. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Of course you do. Of course you do. All right, what's number 3?
So number 3, as you are more than likely already aware, Spirit Airlines has somewhat died recently. And
somewhat died.
Yeah.
They're dead. There is no somewhat.
A company cannot die, Yaffee, okay? It is metaphorically dead. That is what I meant. Dead. Okay.
Go ahead.
So Spirit Airlines is dead, of course. And because of this, they've been flying all of their planes out to what they call an airplane graveyard out in the desert in Phoenix. And so because of that, people have been tracking them on this service called Flight Radar 24. It's very cool. I actually use it myself. But it's gone super viral over the past couple of days of people, especially on Reddit. They've been tracking these as they go and land, and then they look at satellite photos of the area. And it kind of looks crazy, just like 40 or so like bright yellow planes.
Uh-huh.
Like who would have expected an entire fleet of planes to just go land in this airplane graveyard? And
right.
They get scrapped here, by the way. They're just kind
of... They get scrapped?
Yeah.
Can people buy, like, the whole plane? You only buy scraps?
I want to buy the whole plane, but I guess we'll just buy it piecemeal. You know, we'll buy one piece at a time. I'll get the seats, you get the engine.
You get a good deal, you know?
Yeah. Maybe it's cheaper one piece at a time.
No, I don't. I doubt that, actually.
I'll buy one wing, you buy the other, okay?
But, I mean, like, all of a sudden there's a huge supply of these kind of planes. You would think airlines would want them.
Yeah, why not just sell them instead of just retiring them to the airplane graveyard?
I don't know. I thought they were selling them. I'm a little confused here, honestly. I don't know. Did you ever take Spirit?
No, I've never been in a plane whatsoever. Well, actually, I've been on a plane that's like on the ground, but I've never flown.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be a no. I took it once. It was fine.
Fine. It was just fine.
I mean, what? Yeah, what do you expect?
From Spirit Airlines.
To me, there's not that much of a difference between most planes, unless you're getting super first class, where you can like lay down in a bed or something, which they have those. Like most of it, it's just like, okay, you have to pay different fees here versus that, or you have to buy the soda on the plane instead of getting it for free. But anyway,
Spirit Airlines, they take things from you, right? Like you give them a drink.
Exactly. They make you work while you're there. All right, what's number 2?
So number 2 today, I mentioned this in my Hate Today on Dale's show earlier, but the game Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream, it is a huge, massive hit recently, and I spoke about it before on a previous What's Trending. However, the same people that were praising it that week are now criticizing it en masse for not including things such as disability aids and hijabs, Yaffee.
Yeah, and I saw the pictures you sent. I'm just like, what is happening?
And I was so surprised to see a post. When I screenshotted that, it had 29,000 likes on it, that post did. It has well over 100,000 now of people agreeing.
Wow.
And
Are they actually agreeing, or is this like
the
a giant
grand
troll?
majority of the comments are people legitimately agreeing?
Part of me just thinks this is just trolling.
I would hope. I would really
trolling,
hope.
right?
But it's so strange to see the biggest games just go downhill so fast because it doesn't have disability aids in the game. or religious.
I know,
you know,
this whole thing.
Religious attire. Like, there's no other religions in the game.
This whole thing. I don't know. Okay, well, you're still going to get the game, right? Do you still have it, or
No, I went to Target yesterday and I almost bought it, but I convinced myself not to because I'm trying to be better with my money.
Okay.
And I successfully didn't buy it. So
well, there you go. Good for you.
I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it because it didn't have disability aids, though. Yeah, that's really why I didn't buy it.
I was gonna say, what do you do to talk yourself in? You're just talk yourself into it, or do you have a secret helps you save money?
Just telling myself I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it.
Okay, well that works.
I don't need it.
I'm gonna text you randomly throughout the day, and be like, "You don't need it."
It would help. It would really, really help. It would really help, Yaffee. Another thing I don't need, though, is number one today, Yaffee. I think it was last week as well, we also discussed covering things in wax, right? So one of these things that we cover in wax are glitter dumplings.
Glitter dumplings.
It's one of the cheapest little squishy toys that you can get right now, but kids are absolutely going insane for them to the fact that they have sold out nearly everywhere. Now, I saw these well before they were popular, and they not that great. But the only reason they're popular, Yaffee, is because a little kid went viral on TikTok, and people thought she was cute the way she opened it, and was so excited to get the glitter dumpling.
I hate these. I'm sure it's all cute, but it just makes me mad that
it's such a
someone
waste,
can go
too.
viral.
Yeah,
doing something that's like, what the heck? Why didn't I think of that?
The worst part is adults buying like 50 of them and doing the same like finger tap thing that the little kid did when she got hers on top of the little case, and then they just throw them away because they didn't get the one they wanted.
And see, now I'm going to be thinking, okay, how do I get Evie to go viral? What can she open?
She can become a VTuber.
Take a video. And then I'm like, that's not a good thought. I should not be trying to get my daughter.
No, you shouldn't try to monetize your daughter, Yaffee.
No, but it's like, come on, you're a cute kid. Get some money for us.
Open the glitter dumpling, Evie. Open the glitter dumpling.
Yeah, what the heck? All right, thanks, Bugsy. Appreciate it. We'll be back in a moment here on the Yaffee program.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. We've been asking people, weigh in on the Yaffee text line. You want to win a seat next to Bugsy as we show the movie Talk Radio at Low Mill Saturday night. We got a text in. Got a few texts in, but I wanted to read this one, Bugsy. It's actually a very nice one. So it's a word of encouragement for you today, Bugsy.
Okay.
It said, and I'll let you decide if we give this person the tickets. It said, Bugsy, the world is telling you that no matter what bad stuff you face, you are strong, beautiful, and will overcome any obstacle in your way. Hashtag you got this, Bugsy. Also, hashtag truth czar Yaffee. So complimented me too, but look at that. See? That's a much better horoscope.
So the obstacle of a rotten banana, I will overcome it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So you don't want, so he doesn't win?
He should.
You want to give him the tickets?
I think we should give him the tickets because he called
Okay.
your name, Truth Czar Yaffee. He didn't only compliment me, and
he spelled my name right.
There we go. Right. There we go.
All right. Okay, good. Just wanted to check in on that. If you have a suggestion what the universe is trying to tell Bugsy, tell me on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Let's end the show like we usually do, Bugsy. We have the Yaffee program rewind. That time of the show where I remind you, if you missed any of it live, the podcast will be up on the website, WVNN.com, or anywhere you subscribe, anywhere you get your podcasts. Share with your friends, give me a good review, all that stuff. So at the beginning of the show, yes, we talked about the latest in Iran. There has been some, Trump's calling it the mini war. And I guess it is kind of a mini war because Iran tries to attack U.S. Navy ships and doesn't succeed. Trump is trying to get the strait reopened without having to just bomb the hell out of the country. if this works in doing that, it would be pretty amazing. I have no idea if it's going to work, though. Go ahead if you can, because there was an update on it this morning. Bugsy, play the Pete Hegseth cut for me.
Project Freedom is defensive in nature, focused in scope, and temporary in duration, with one mission: protecting innocent commercial shipping from Iranian aggression. We're not looking for a fight, but Iran also cannot be allowed to block innocent countries and their goods from an international waterway.
So we talked about that at the beginning of the show. The podcast is up. We had the Alabama bullet points as well. I always post that on my social media, so you want to like the Yaffee Facebook page or follow me next at Yaffee. One of the stories I had is that Secretary of State Wes Allen says that the May 19th primary election will proceed as planned, even though they might be redrawing the map because there is a special session going on right now. So we had that, the details in the Alabama bullet points. The podcast is up. I also played some cuts of Attorney General Steve Marshall, who was on CNN talking about this whole effort. Go ahead and play cut one of Steve Marshall for me, Bugsy.
Jake, I don't think it's contradictory at all. In fact, Justice Alito spoke specifically to the Alabama decision, noting that it was one coming up with a limited record, one in which there was initial injunctive relief without the full ability to explain the facts. And what we've seen as a result of the new decision from Louisiana is an opportunity for Alabama to be in the same way, that we don't allow race to predominate in the drawing of the districts, that we separate partisanship from a consideration of race. And when you do so, Alabama's going to prevail, and it's why we're seeking that relief today.
Okay, so we have many in the propaganda press just, they can no longer scream racism to the judges in courts to redraw maps, so they're going to the press and they're saying racism. So that's what's happening. It's not going to work, though. So we talked about that. We also had Victoria Coates on, who is a national security foreign policy expert with the Heritage Foundation. We talked about Iran, also talked about the latest in Venezuela and the potential to invest more and drill more oil there, which is good. Then, yes, we had What's Trending with Bugsy and people giving her advice for the future, it seems like. If you missed any of the show, the podcast is up on the website, WVNN.com. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. Thanks to Bugsy for producing today. Thanks to you for listening. The Vince Show is coming up next, and I'll be back tomorrow at the same time. See you then.
The Yaffee Program.
Hey, I'm Chris Van Vliet. Go behind the scenes and beyond the headlines with the biggest names in pro wrestling and beyond.
Sandy's app. If I give you a decade, who do you think's the MVP?
80s, Hogan, not even close. 90s, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Absolutely.
2000s, John Cena.
You filmed The Brain in 2004.
Yeah.
Isn't the story that role was going to be for Steve Austin? For Steve Austin.
Yep. What is one man's trash is another man's trophy.
Mindset, motivation, insight with Chris Van Vliet. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
My name is David Goss, and I'm joined by my co-host Megan Klinenberg.
And now we're giving people an inside look at the World Cup.
Time's ticking. I think you can feel the intensity. All the guys are wanting to really stake their claim, and they want to be on that World Cup roster. There's no doubt about it.
Hosting the World Cup on home soil comes with its pressures, but we're just really excited, just as the people are.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast, presented by Henco. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.